Very good.
So how do you find all these mastermind? Is there
Uh,
a calendar of it somewhere
yeah,
in
there's
Noble Goldman, or?
there is on the Noble Goldman website. Now, where it is exactly, I always struggle to remember, but there is a section where it gives you all the training sessions that are going on all around the world, and it tells you what they're about. Like some of them are specifically for one of the MSIs maybe, or some of them might be on a particular topic, and they tell you whether they're open or whether they're, you know, and what time zone they're in. But then you've got to convert the time zone to your time and figure out how it's going to work for you.
Do you have to be a paid member, or can, because I'm just a free member in Noble Goldman still?
Possibly. I can't remember, to be honest, because I joined it straight away, so I don't know. I'll have a look and find it on the tab for you after the meeting, and then I'll send a message through to you where to look for it, because I can't off the top of my head remember exactly. Unless you want me to, I could share screen, I suppose, and go and have a look for it.
Oh, that's okay. Let's get started on what we're doing today.
All right. Well, let's do the principles. I'll bring those up so we can get it off on the proper footing that we're supposed to. So you were first, Trudy, and Carly, you can be second, and I'll go number 3.
Oh, sorry, I'll keep muting myself because the street noise, I don't know if that's distracting everybody, but if it's not, I'll leave it. Otherwise, I'll mute it down.
Didn't hear anything.
I'm in a pretty quiet street now, so it's nice. The purpose of the mastermind is to learn leadership, build teams, and create multiple sources of income together.
We are here to inspire and challenge each other to reach and exceed goals.
Each member is committed to their own success as well as the success of every member of the group.
We are committed to meeting in person or virtually for 1 hour every week.
We are present. There is no multitasking or distractions during meetings.
We are collaborative. We listen without interrupting, lecturing, or judging.
We celebrate each other's success without jealousy.
We are honest and participate by giving thoughtful feedback.
We are open and listen to different perspectives without being defensive or offering excuses.
We trust fellow members enough to share fully.
We are focused, but we also think it's important to have fun during meetings.
Yes. We are real and authentic. This is a no BS zone.
We allow ourselves to become completely aligned with each other and the higher forces, one mind, one soul, one love.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. I feel much better now we've shared that. It always puts us back in the right frame of mind and knowing exactly what we're here to achieve. So let's start with something positive today. Who's got any wins they want to share or anything that they want to talk about that's happened during this week?
Me.
Yay!
Well, yeah, I've finally moved south for the winter. So I'm now in Fort Koshi, which is in the state of Kerala on the west coast. And yesterday after being here, thawing out, and I did some crazy stuff. Actually, I was going to take a photo and put it, but I've got on my wall where I just wake up and look at it. It's like, I am so grateful for, and I start my morning with that. And then yesterday, I just did some stuff with my friend on some crypto stuff we're doing. So I made $300 just like that.
Wow.
Then in the afternoon, we jumped on our bicycles and loaded on the ferry with all the bikes and cars and people and crazy shit, and rode our bikes to another beach and then come back. And then my friend cooked her amazing fish curry for dinner. So I just had a magical day. So that set the tone for the whole week now, or for the whole stay of Kerala.
Well, that's awesome. So that's quite a big win that you had then. That's well done. Yeah,
and I really felt, which now I have to kind of like work out. When I say work out, yeah, just my vibration was so high. I just thought, I want to keep this now. How do I do it? So that was probably my lesson. How do I keep my vibration? But otherwise, yeah, it was a great day.
Did you notice that? Did you do anything differently? Did you incorporate anything into your routine that you wouldn't normally have done?
Oh, well, yeah, like I made my signs with my colouring in pencils, you know, and I am so grateful I put that on the wall. I did that the night before and put it up. So yesterday morning was the first morning of doing that.
So you don't normally do anything like that at all?
Oh, probably once upon a time I did something like that. I've done it in the past, you know, put stuff on my wall. So yeah, I'm just feeling really settled here as well. Like I said, the move from the north to the south, the cold to the warm. Yeah, lots of things.
Cool. Well done. Thank you for sharing that. Kelly.
I don't know. I can't think of any, even though I've had a lot of them. I know I've been on retreat for about 14 days silently, and today's my first day of no retreat, so I'm like tired because I've been so busy trying to do my 90-day, 30-day silence.
Yeah.
And put everything in there, even though I'm not meant to be writing anything.
Oh.
That now I've got a day off. So I don't know if that's a win or I'm just exhausted from going to bed so late, trying to fit all of it in plus be silent.
Well, you got through it. That's a win.
That's a win.
And here you are.
Yeah.
Inspired.
It was awesome.
Very good.
Yeah.
So your retreat, have you been away somewhere for the retreat, or you've just done it at home?
Yeah. At home. Not meant to be talking to anyone, but have children.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's a bit interesting. Were they aware that you were doing this? So that were they supportive, or were they testing you?
Oh no, they're aware. One loves testing me. The other one just doesn't say anything because they know they're not meant to be talking to me, and they're happy with that.
How old are they?
They're 13, boy and a girl.
Right. Yes. Okay then.
Yeah. The girl would say to me, "Mom, you're not meant to be talking to me," but she would ask me 10 questions and then remind me halfway through them, "You're not meant to be talking, aren't you meant to be quiet?" Well, I said, if you don't ask me questions, I won't have to be talking to you.
Yeah.
Anyway, she forgets, but Noah does not forget. He just says, "Mom, I'm hungry," and I don't need to ask him anything because he already has the same thing every day. So
you're not meant to write anything either, so you can't even write them a message or.
Not meant to talk, write, think.
Well, that's a bit of a challenging one, trying to do that from home with your family.
It's challenging while I'm doing 90-day quest, I've got to tell you. That was probably the challenging part because I had to write journal gratitude, etc. And I'm not meant to do anything.
Oh. Well, you're the one making the rules though, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, there was set rules with the group. There was 30 of us.
Oh, okay.
But I broke the rules. And a couple of people broke the rules and admitted it. And I didn't admit it because I actually knew that the rules were my choice.
Yeah.
So there was nothing to admit because it was my choice to do my 90-day quest and 30-day quest. And I was sticking to those because that's what I had committed to before I started the silent retreat. So I wasn't giving them up because they were already a pre-agreed commitment to self. So I wasn't giving them up.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like you're not letting anybody else down. It's only you're making your own judgment to yourself about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
Yeah, what's valuing me. So that was valuing me. So I stuck to my commitment.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Trudy, I see you've decided to let the light in there. You've twisted your camera to let the window light in. Trudy was just saying before the call that she didn't like the picture behind. You can unmute, I think, because there's only 3 of us. We don't need to, unless you've got
just
going on.
Yeah, just a bloody Royal Enfield went down the road. They're so loud, those things. They're like the Harley Davidson.
Oh, right, yeah.
Fix the problem.
Now that's what I like to see, creativity in action.
It's just a weird picture, but anyway, that's India.
Well done. Yeah, so describing your happy day there, Trudy, it sort of made me think about the fact that yesterday I woke up in that kind of mood. I'd gone to bed early, pretty tired, and got up early. And just before I went to bed, though, I made the decision to read. So I've quite often been working late on my computer, and they say one of the things they say, you know, I've
Don't
read
have screen time.
videos, that you shouldn't really go from your computer to going to bed because the light is not good for you, like for your mind. So you're better off to actually have a break, read something, and then go to bed. And then you're going to be more likely to go into that sort of sleepy state and get proper sleep. So I've read that and actually applied it for a change, and I woke up feeling much better. And I came down, and because Jo was in the office on a call to somebody, she does a lot of coaching calls as well. I came and sat in the lounge room and did my journaling, and I just sat there and poured out all these things that I was grateful for. And after I'd finished doing all that, and I wrote pages of it, I just felt on top of the world, because I just thought, wow, my life's pretty damn good. You know, I've got nothing to really complain about at all. And that doesn't stop us from complaining, of course, now and again about something. But I just felt in such a good mood, and I actually it set me up for the day, because I had to go off and do some cleaning in my cleaning business that I really hadn't previously wanted to be doing. But I went off actually looking forward to it and thinking, oh, well, I'm going to get to listen to my audio books while I'm working. So I did about 3.5 hours of cleaning, plus the 45 minutes each way to drive there and back. So all that time I had audio tapes running, and I was listening to positive motivational stuff. So really good. It set me up for the day, that really good start. So that's, you know, what we've been talking about in the 90-day challenge and the 30-day quest as well, is getting into those good habits. And it really brought home to me that it actually does work, you know. When you put yourself in that frame of mind where you're open to being grateful, open to, you know, thinking about what you want to achieve, anything that you're kind of not really happy about, or you're putting it off, to change, to reframe how you're thinking about that and how you're approaching it. And that sort of mind shift completely set me up to be happy all day, which was great. So I suppose that was a big win, to remind myself of that. And it's funny, it's you know, Russ calls his training the untraining. I think a lot of what we're all about is actually reminding ourselves of what we already knew, but life has battered us and we've forgotten it, you know. So we're going back to stuff that we're already aware of, but it's like, you know, refreshing and reminding yourself, hey, this stuff works, and being like this works, and it changes your whole state of being, doesn't it?
Because when I'm doing my gratitude journaling, it just reminds me of all of the joyful things I have in my life. Like, it reawakens the joy from the experience of those things I'm grateful for in the moment of writing about it. So, you know how you get busy over the day, and even though you might have had joyful things happen 3 days ago, but then you get into work and children and whatever. But when you write about it, when it comes out in your gratitude, like, it reopens it instantly. And you're back into the actual experience of the embodiment of joy, which is what the prime thing does, just by watching that for 5 minutes. And so, it really works, because that does set you up for the rest of the day, because your body's already in that environment of how you really want to feel, and that carries you through the experiences for the new day.
I must admit, I haven't set up the positive prime yet. I've made contact and all that, but I haven't had a chance to sit down and properly set it up. But what I have always done is, over the last few years, because our great joy has been traveling and working through our bucket list of places around the world to go to and experiences to have. And so when we take photographs from our holidays and so on, I pick out the key ones from each year, and then I've got a slideshow that runs on my computer permanently of Joe and I in all these different places and having all these different experiences, you know, whether it's scuba diving or flying or you know, being on a boat somewhere, or you know, all these sort of really cool things that we've done. So it's like a constant reminder of that state of mind of being in a happy place, you know, and experiencing a really great thing. And that's just popping up on my computer all the time as a screensaver. So I've always done that, and I've always found that's a very you know, it's a great way of putting yourself back into a happy mood, because you see a picture come. I've got pictures of my grandchildren in there as well, and so anything that's sort of going to put you into a positive mental state. But then I realized also that a lot of that then is looking at things that have happened in the past, but they are things that have made me happy, that I was happy in the present moment that I was in that situation, which now is in the past. But it's reconnecting with that emotion of that moment, you know, and then putting me into that state again now in the future. But I've also done a slideshow now for the things, the goals that I want to achieve. I've come up with a picture like that illustrates that sentiment, or that if it's a place, it's easy because you're going to put a picture of that place that you want to go to. If it's something like my reading goal, for example, I've got a picture of me sitting in my chair reading, and that reminds me that that's who I am. Is I'm a reader, I'm a regular reader, you know, not just so it's being it rather than just wanting to do it. If that makes sense.
It's a feeling, because it ignites something in you called passion, but even if it's subtle, it ignites it, and the rest of the day that creates that. Yeah. No matter what you're experiencing, generally, like it has that underlying essence. So you enjoy everything.
That's
the rest of the day. Yeah. And it works.
Well, I actually, you know, putting myself in that positive state, I actually went to this building and did 3.5 hours of cleaning at this building. You know, I was mopping stairwells and stuff like that. And I actually really enjoyed myself because I could see the place was a mess when I got there. And by the time I'd finished, it looked really good. And I had one of the residents came out and went, "Oh, this looks really good," you know, so it was very satisfying that I felt it actually, you know, I could sort of see the end product of what I'd been working towards. And the whole time I was listening to a really good audiobook as well. Yeah. Great fun. Yeah. Okay. Well, today's topic that I thought of, I was scrambling, I've got to admit today, I was trying to think, what can we talk about? And I had all sorts of, you know, I try and usually do what Martin does, and that's sort of come up with something that's happened during the week or something that's occurred that's made me think about things in a certain way. So I'm always open to, if anyone's got a better topic they want to talk about, then you can put your hand up, because, you know, maybe I haven't come up with the best one, but we'll see. The question I thought of was to talk about your ego versus your higher self. Interesting topic. So to ask yourself, when did you let your ego drive you, and when and how did you recognize that? And then, you know, what did you learn from that experience of reflecting on it? And, you know, talking in terms of your ego reflecting your lower level kind of functions, if you like, your emotions such as fear or jealousy or greed or anger or judgment, when you've been, for want of a better word, you could say attacked or protected, depending on which way you flip it, by your ego getting into your head and saying, you know, are you going to let them get away with that? Or, you know, how dare they do that? Or, you know, it's all right for those lucky buggers, they've got this, but I've only got that, you know. So you've had those sort of different things: jealousy, greed, anger, judgment. The ego, it's, you know, the more I've read about it, the ego is there to protect you, to stop you from being at risk. So being out there, putting yourself outside the cave, if we go back to the caveman example, you know, being away from the tribe, being out in danger, to stop you from being humiliated or embarrassed, you know, so the ego tends to kick in and say, oh, I'm above doing that, or oh, I'm not really a public speaker, so I shouldn't stand up and do that public speech or whatever. So the ego is doing all these things ostensibly to protect you, but it's also, depending on how you look at it, if you read Outwitting the Devil, for example, it could be the voice of perhaps the devil, the dark side, trying to distract you from your purpose or your goals. So I mean, it's quite an in-depth topic, really. You can go into lots of different directions with it. What are your thoughts on that? Is there something that's come up for you where you've allowed your ego to drive your actions rather than who you would like yourself to think of yourself as, or who you'd like to be, the better part of yourself?
Will I go first? I'll go first. Hello, our ego loves running the ship. So hello, I've got lots of stories. What one do you want?
Whichever one popped into your mind that you want to share.
Well, the one that popped in was the one when we were on the last call with Veronica.
Oh, right.
So was that Friday?
Possibly Friday morning.
Yeah, and I was in the middle of silence retreat, restarting for the weekend for full days, and she was talking about trust, and probably within half a block of us hanging up, there was a P-plater coming, and I was crossing the road, and he was pulling over to the left, and I thought, good, he's moving over, and he literally was moving over to the left, and I thought it's safe to cross. And I didn't re-look. Normally I re-look, I've got this habit of double checking just in case someone does change their mind. And this day I didn't. And he decided he changed his mind. But being a P-plater, he wasn't probably doing the speed limit well. And before I knew it, he was behind me. Like he scared the hell out of me. Thank God he didn't run into me. And then he turned right into the street. I was walking across the road to go down instead of staying on the main road. And he looked at me for felt like 5 minutes as he turned the corner. And I looked at him and I just shook my head like, what on earth were you thinking? You know how you think it, like you shake your head? Well, he didn't like it. And he went halfway down that street and turned around. And he came back and he was abusing me, like yelling at the top of his voice with his window down, with his arm going. And I kept walking in the hope that whatever he was, by then he was behind me, I couldn't see him. So you could say my ego was not happy that he nearly ran me over. And then he obviously didn't like the energy that I was judging him with in my thought form, you bloody idiot. And then he scared the hell out of me. And then he turned around and did a U and came back, like I said. Yeah. And I kept walking because I don't know what he could have done. Like there was no one around. He could have got it. He obviously was young. He could have been on something. Yeah. And I thought, just pretend my headphones are making lots of noise and keep going. And it took me probably 20 minutes to get home walking. So he could have followed me the whole way. I just didn't look. I just kept going because if I had gone to even looking, I would have been having a fear problem.
So you trusted in the universe to protect you, or?
No, because I was on part of my silence retreat and she, the lady running it, didn't want us to go to the middleman, and the middleman's calling on your spiritual guides, angels, everything to protect her. Yep. And normally I would do that, and she said, don't do it. She wanted us to practice not doing it and stay in your, anyway, long story short, because I didn't do what she wanted, because I did what she didn't want, like wanted us to do, I didn't go back into my heart. I stayed in my mind, and I think that made it worse because he kept going on. Mm. But if normally I go straight back into my heart and just fully surrender to love, because love diffuses everything. Yeah. Even someone yelling softens.
So you would normally have a coping strategy, but this time you weren't allowed to use that coping strategy?
No, I didn't use it. I was trying to follow the rules of this silent retreat, and I didn't use my coping strategy, which would have been instantly, like, seriously. And then I got to put up with it a lot longer than I normally would have, because he honestly would have softened and would have shut off the energy from him needing to retaliate from my mind and fear ego part of me not feeling safe.
Yeah.
So that kept it going for a while. And when I got home, I was like, oh my goodness, that was awful. So then I had to bring myself fully home.
So I suppose if he was angry, if he was picking up your fear,
Oh yeah.
then that fueled his ego to keep on going, because he felt like he was dominating you or taking it out on you, that you were the one in the wrong and not him, which
Yeah.
might have actually been fueled by him maybe feeling embarrassed that perhaps he'd done the wrong thing.
Yeah. And on the way home, I went to the shops. In that 20 minutes, I needed to go to the shops, which is 5 minutes from my house. And I went there and I was wearing a hat. So I'm in the shopping centre, and then there was this young guy, and I reckon it was him. He must have then went to the shops, because he stared at me through the shop window. And I looked, I thought someone stared at me, and I looked. And this young guy was just standing there, like, dialed onto me. And I'm like, oh my God, that could be him. And then I went back to the shop lady and she served me, and then I went home. But I thought, oh my God, that was awful.
That's really spooky, isn't it?
Yeah. And that doesn't normally happen to me. So the fact that happened, I know it's because I didn't go back into my heart properly. I stayed in my mind, because fear takes us to, shit, how do I get out of here? Which is good. Especially if the person's about to stab you or something, of course you're going to get out of there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But
So
I do know that love diffuses before it gets to bad.
Yeah.
Like if you're in your heart and you catch it early by being in love, it helps diffuse the person getting past their point of control. Energetically. I'm not saying you can control anyone. I'm just saying love diffuses a lot of situations.
Yeah.
If you catch it early enough. Once the person's decided they're going to hurt someone, obviously you get out of there.
Yeah. But you can see very often in the build-up, in pub fights and so on, you can see the one person getting angry. If the other person matches that anger with anger, and it escalates.
It just goes boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was you basically reinforced your own belief anyway in the power of love and being in your heart rather than in your mind. That was the big learning from.
Yeah, and to definitely call on God, like if you believe in good, like avatars or guardian angels or spiritual guides that you've been in India, if you have a guru from there, like like if you believe in Shivas and whatever, you'd call on the energy of that, because they're fully powerful beings of love. And that just calling on that, you normally do that into your heart. So when you're calling on that from the heart, it takes you to the heart. So any small fear that my ego has already surrenders to the heart much easier. It's a bit like chanting.
Yeah.
It takes you to the heart if that's where you're used to chanting from. If you're used to chanting from the mind, well, if it's it takes you to that middle part of the brain where you're more aligned with the connection of heaven to earth, the soul energy, the universal energy that manifests. But if you're at the front of the mind, where your ego is sitting in fear, you're not fully down here or in the center. in the most core of your being. It's a different kind of energy.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Trudy, have you thought of any examples of?
No, I'm sitting here racking my brain because I don't know, I've just kind of been so chilled being here, and I'm a pretty chilled person anyway. But even like you say, ego, or because I'm sort of thinking ego is the one that controls. For me, ego is what controls you. But just an incident that's happened to me here in India that could have been. It wasn't even from the heart. It was just, so I got on this train and I took the really cheap ticket because it was only like an hour or 2 hours to go down this train trip. And so I got in the carriage, and there was a bunch of boys there, and there was 2 spare seats. So I sat down, and the guy said, "You can't sit there, my mate's coming." I said, "Well, your mate's not here, I'm staying." And this went on for about 10 minutes, he was just, "You can't stay there." And I just said, "Sorry, mate." And I was just in a calm mood. I wasn't agitated by it. I wasn't, upset by it. Anyway, so like I just sat there, and then the mates turned up and they all climbed on the top as they do. But then the interesting thing was, halfway through the train journey, right behind me was the way to the next carriage. Anyway, this big fight broke out, and all these boys are climbing over top to look at this fight, and I'm just sitting there reading my book, ignoring the whole thing. Because there's only myself and maybe 2 other Indian girls on the train of boys, so like I just had to be in a real calm place. And I kind of thought it was just not funny, but so then what happened was that turned out that the boy who was in my face was the boy that was in the fight. And he came back and sat down, and then the guy that was in the fight with him came and started slapping him around in the compartment. I'm just like, oh no, I'm out of here. So the whole learning from that was, don't take cheap train tickets, but just to watch the whole thing unfold, and my reaction to it, I guess that's an ego thing, but that was a pretty, different thing to happen, like you just had to relax with it. You couldn't, let it go. To me, like, so that's why ego is the one in control. I just sort of totally relax with it, so that's how I perceive ego, as the one that controls you to. Because then I have another, my friend up in Rajasthan, he's from one who may join us one day. You get on the scooter with him when you're driving along, he just yells at everybody. I'm just like, seriously, you're in fucking India, calm down. And he's been coming here for 35 years, so I think that's really just his ego going, I'm white and I'm riding in India. Get out of my way, sort of thing. Yeah, I just laugh at him. It's just so crazy. He just yells at everybody on the bike. And I just start laughing when he does that.
Yeah, maybe he stored it all up from home, and then he gets to let it out while he's in India.
Yeah, well, we've had a pretty big lockdown, like he I spent a lot of time with him, and then his sons are back in Australia, struggling, doing things, so he's had a tough lockdown over here. But I think that's him anyway, and he tells me he just does it for the fun of it, to stir them up. I'm thinking, well, what if they don't know what you're saying? Because it was so funny the other day, he yelled at someone for doing something, and they just turn around and go, "Where is it you want to go?" And I just cracked up laughing. I'm thinking, well, they don't even understand what you said. They just understand a few words. So they're going to say to you, "Where do you want to go?" And he's yelling at them for not indicating and turning in front of him, and they just went, "Where do you want to go?" Crazy. Yeah. So you can't let ego get into your head here, for sure.
Especially in India.
It's
exactly. So cars, bikes, everything just missing each other, and you have to keep your cool there so that you really keep safe, not hitting people, bumping them or.
So, I mean, you do see that even in Perth. You see road rage incidents, or you see people getting very agitated. If somebody's accidentally cut in front of you, that like you were in their blind spot or something, and they've changed lane and they've not seen you, it's pretty obvious. I mean, you'd think that they wouldn't be a sort of person who deliberately goes cutting somebody off. You have to think that probably they've not seen that person in their mirror, or they were in that blind spot and they just didn't see them, or they've perhaps not looked properly. It may be their fault, but why did then some people get really angry about that and want to do something crazy, or, you know, and other people just let it go and just go, well, you know. And you see some people that are like beeping furiously at someone, and you think, what's that about? You know, why are you letting it ruin your day?
Yeah,
It reminds me of a situation. I was at a petrol pump one morning, and so I pulled into this service station, and I went to I filled up my car, and I had put the pump back in, and I was then going to walk inside to go and pay, which is what you normally do. But this other guy pulled up behind me, and he suddenly beeps at me, and he shouts out of the window, he's like, "Where do you think you're going?" And I'm going in to pay. Why? And he's like, "Well, move your bloody car out the way." You know, and he's getting really angry and like, whoa, okay, well, someone's obviously in a real hurry, you know, because you know, every service station I've ever filled up at, I've never had somebody say, "Get your car out of the way." You're expected that you go and pay. Otherwise,
Okay. Yeah.
drive off the service station, people think you're trying to leave without paying or something, you know.
Yeah.
But he obviously must have been in a really bad mood to start with, and was in a hurry to get somewhere. I mean, he could have pulled over to the other pump, you know, but instead he's like shouting at me, and I just went, "Okay, if it's that important to you." I got back in and moved my car into one of the parking bays, and then went in and paid. I just thought, wow, this guy's he was so agitated, you know, really, really angry.
Yeah.
see, I guess I would have just left the car there and kept walking.
Yeah, you could do that, but then he
Just-
looked like he was angry enough to probably punch me when I got back. You know, if I'd-
Yeah.
But you're at a petrol station, but you know, like you're saying about road rage, you know, especially like I used to hate driving the freeway in Perth. You know, I just don't like driving in big cities, and it took
Yeah.
me a while to get through. But anyway, even if it's not Perth, somewhere where I've driven, you know, and people get the road rage and they're tooting their horn, I just go, "Hey, how are you?" with a big smile on my face and a big wave, you know, just try to diffuse them or just to piss them off. So I guess that's probably a bit of ego for me there, but just like, why bother, you know? And I just give them a big wave and hello when they're tooting their horn at me.
Mm. It's interesting, isn't it? All the different reactions that you get from people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think it
So-
depends if you feel safe or not. Like, you know, like some people cut you off, but you suddenly feel unsafe because you're going along and not expecting that, and then they pull in and cut you off without you knowing.
Yeah.
So maybe people come from fear. Like, I don't know, with the guy going around the corner, like he just didn't like me not being happy that he nearly ran me over. But at the same time, like he could have, you know, like whatever reason it set him off, but I don't know.
So, I mean, we can only speculate, but it could have been
Yeah.
that you triggered his embarrassment that he probably hadn't driven.
Yeah, like he knew he'd done something wrong, but he didn't like being told he had.
Yeah. so
By
then
my
immediately-
body language going.
Oh, hang on. We've got an interjection happening here. Someone's
Beautiful.
home and overheard.
Troy and I just experienced the exact same thing that you guys are talking about, right? I pulled into the car park to go and get Troy some Subway, very tight parking. So I pulled in and I was discussing with Troy what he wanted. And there was a family trying to get into their car next to mine. And because it was so tight, they were having difficulty. So I opened my door up and I said, "I'll just reverse for you so you can get in easier." Right? And I did it, but they just scowled at me. No, thank you, no smile, no, nothing. So, and I said something to Troy, and Troy said, maybe she's got too many kids, because she had about 6 kids with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that could put you into a bad space, I suppose, if you're dealing with lots of unruly children and having a bad day.
At least she saved a car from being scratched, because you never know, they could have just opened the door up and hit her car with no respect of that either.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so I suppose one of the big learnings about all these things is that when we react from ego to whatever it is that's going on around us, we're quite often not as in control, not going to get the outcome perhaps that we would really have liked, as if we could take a breath, calm, think it through, think how am I going to choose to
Yeah.
respond rather than to react.
Yeah. Yeah. I think fear is valid because fear is not really, well, you could say it's your ego, but it's not really your ego. It's your safety mechanism to make sure that you're safe in the environment that you've now got yourself into, a bit like on the train, you know, like it's like you're discerning, am I still safe to sit here right now with this going on?
Yes.
And if I am, I'll just sit in my peace. But then if your wisdom kicked in, your internal thought or wisdom, gut instinct kicked in and said, no, get out of here, you'd know that's the voice telling you that. You know which voice is ego and which one isn't. And you'd go, shit, I've got to get out of here. Off I go.
Yeah, that's true. But if it's a case of reacting as in you might be afraid, but you might also think, I'm not going to lose this situation. I need to win, you know, I need to.
Yeah, I'm not moving. I am not moving just because they're fighting. I'm going to sit here because I believe I am, you know, I don't need to move.
I wasn't giving up my seat on the train in India.
Yeah.
So was that an ego thing?
That could have been it then, you know, like, yeah, I wasn't, because if I give up my seat, you know, the minute you stand up, someone's just straight in the spot.
Yeah.
But if it had been really dangerous, you would have moved.
For sure.
So fear is good, and the ego is good in certain circumstances because it still helps you have a boundary. But in others, it can overstep the boundary when you're feeling wounded and then you react like that man did with me yelling.
Yeah, that's interesting you've used that word, because I was just reading a Marianne Williamson book today, and she was talking about when we are reacting or using or responding or reacting from one of those sort of base levels, not necessarily fear, but more anger or frustration or desire to prove somebody wrong or to prove yourself right, or being jealous or those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Very often it's because you are a wounded soul. There is something that people can't see, obviously, because it's more of an emotional or mental scar that's happened. It might be something that's happened in your childhood. It might be a situation that reminds you of a previous situation, and so you're immediately going back to how you felt in that moment, and how you reacted then may dictate how you react now. Like in the past, you might have given in and got hurt, so this time you're going to stand your ground, or the other way around, you know. So it could be that there's a previous wounding that's occurred that you as the observer in the situation are not aware of, and you're responding to something that you don't really know what it is you're dealing with.
Yeah, and especially as we get older, because kids aren't allowed to respond, but then that teenage boy, I'm pretty sure that was him at the shop, he responded because he's now an adult and he can, but if his parent had been in the car, they would have told him, don't behave like that.
Yeah.
You see, so parents squash the child's opportunity to express completely so that they don't store the anger. They get to express as they get wounded as a child if their parent is conscious. But if they squash it all down, by the time they get to the 20s or even late teens, and they're taking, I'm not saying he was on a substance, but the anger combined with other substances, or just the anger when something like what I had occur comes out, because that person may not have been able to, for 5 years as a child, express that. It's built up. And then me looking at him just the wrong way was the trigger to let some of that out.
Yeah.
So that's why I always go back into compassion, because if I go back into my heart, it diffuses it because it doesn't make either of us wrong.
Yeah.
And like his anger's not wrong. And he gets to diffuse because he's already let it out. It doesn't have to keep going.
Mm.
Because
So
that's what love does. It
just
opens the door.
Just to play the opposite, the advocate for a moment. Does that mean you should apologize even if you're in the wrong? You know, you hear these people are like, oh, sorry you bumped into me.
Yeah.
Do you always back down then? Is that the better option? Or are there times when you have to put a boundary up or say, well, actually you were the one who bumped into me?
Yeah. Would you let someone just keep doing that to the rest of your life if you never put a boundary in place?
No, of course not.
But what if the boundaries love anyway?
Mm. Well, you could argue that you're teaching them.
But why have I got to teach them? Why can't I teach myself that if I come back into love, that's enough of a boundary to support me, and the ripple effect supports them from a distance?
So you're saying self-love in that situation?
Yeah, like love is universal. So if I come back into love and you're part of my energy field, or not my energy field, part of my conversation in the distance, you're yelling at me coming back into love is a ripple effect because the whole universe is love. So I'm one with the universe, and that affects anyone else in the universe.
What you project out is what's reflected back, isn't it?
Yeah, so if I'm not in fear, if I bring it back in and bring myself home and out of my mind back into my heart, it really does make a difference to the person that's having a bad hair day.
Well, you know, very often with these sort of things that escalate into anger, it's not usually that one thing. That one thing is like the last straw.
Yeah, it's the built up anger, and it could have been from any reason. It could have been, he could have been bullied all his childhood at school for all I know. Like, who knows what his boundaries were that made him overstep them towards another human being. But I know on my side of the fence, it was because I was in my mind in fear of him being worse than that. Like, because when I saw his car turn around, I thought, oh shit, he's coming back and I'm the only one in the street. And as soon as I heard him, I thought, oh my God, he's abusing me. I thought, just keep walking. I'll just keep walking. I'll just connect with nature. I'm not turning around because I don't want to ignite more out of him, because I knew I wasn't meant to be doing my other stuff. And so I was just vulnerable to the moment.
Do you think you would have reacted differently if you went supposedly on, you know, doing that retreat?
Yeah, I know. I instantly go into my heart. Like because I'm linked to an avatar, I go straight into my heart. So
would you have actually spoken back to him, do you think, then?
No, I have no need to.
Right.
Because when I'm in my heart, love diffuses it.
Mm.
He then softens, and he doesn't need to keep yelling at me because he realizes he's not getting any energy from me because it's just love.
Mm.
Like, whether he's conscious of that realization or not, it's an unconscious realization. Like, it diffuses.
Yeah, that certainly fits in with taking it back to a less spiritual, perhaps, and a more sort of practical, hands-on type thing. Is in retail. When I used to, as a retail manager, I used to get called to the service desk to deal with angry customers who were complaining about a product that they'd bought that wasn't what they wanted, or it had broken, or it didn't do what it was supposed to do. And some of them would come in And you could tell straight away it wasn't just that was annoying them, that they were in a bad mood to start with. Something else was going on with them. Maybe the kids were being, you know, a pain in the neck or whatever, and they just wanted to take it out on somebody, so they'll just go blah, you know, and rant at you right over the top, you know, that you're like ridiculous overreaction to the actual situation. It's like, I've got a broken product, would you exchange it for me? Before even hearing, maybe the girl at the service desk might have said, oh no, we can't take that back or something, and then I get called in to diffuse the situation.
Yeah.
And so you're walking up to what you know, you can see before you even get there is an angry customer who's ranting and carrying on, you know, red in the face and going on, and you've got to then just calm it all down and go, you know, so how can I help you? What would you like? You know, what's going on here? Tell me your story. And it's interesting when you see, once people start to realize that you're not opposing them, you're not got that barrier up where you're meeting them on their level. You know, if you're going like, I'm calm, you tell me your story, I'm listening.
Yeah, as soon as you respect.
Then they feel heard.
Yes.
And acknowledged. And then if you make the right sort of sympathetic noises, and I see, and you know, oh, okay, so yeah, I get where you're coming from. So as soon as you start showing some kind of level of acceptance of that, they're validating their reason to be so angry, they calm right down.
Yeah.
And you see that transformation then to a person going from up here and ready to start throwing punches to, oh, okay, this guy doesn't seem to be unreasonable. He's, you know, even sometimes I might still refuse the refund or not give them what they want, but I've got them down to where they're actually open to considering that maybe they mistreated the product, or that they, you know, that it wasn't our fault that they broke it or something, you know.
Yeah.
But
and like, when you're doing that, I'm assuming you're coming from a heart-centered place. I'm assuming you're not using your mind and going, right, I'll say this now and this, that'll diffuse it. You're just organically coming straight from respect, value.
I think that was my sort of standard approach, was to always treat people with the respect, or be fair to people. But if I had someone who carried on escalating and being, no matter what I said to them or how I was to them, going on being a, you know, use an Australian expression, being a pork chop, then I would be right. Okay, if you're going to carry on being like that, then you're not getting anything out of me. And it would become a contest, but I would have to work it around. And I became, as a retail manager, very, very adept at, you know, making someone paint themselves into a corner where they look like the idiot, and doing it very politely, so there's no way it could come back on me in terms of breaching company policy or anything, or being rude to a customer. So you know, you learn to play that game, and then you have been operating from ego, because you know, you wanted to prove that they were just being an idiot, and you wanted to win that situation. But that would only be if they were carrying on escalating when I'm being the voice of teach and reason. And if they're trying to take their bad day out on me, I'm not having that. So then it's like, okay, well, if you're going to carry on like that, then you're going to cop the consequences of that, which is I'm not giving in to what you want.
Yeah, which is perfect.
Yeah, I always thought it was.
Still a boundary.
You've got to put some sort of boundary up. Otherwise, if people carry on, if they're being aggressive or unruly or, you know, intimidating in some way, that's not the way to behave. And then you're teaching, if you let them get away with that, then you're reinforcing their belief that that's the way you get things that you want. If you go around being rude to people and being an obnoxious idiot, then you win, you know, you get what you want. Well, no, you don't. That would be my take on that. So have you had any other situation in India? You must have some real challenges with the cultural difference, I would have thought, over there. Have you experienced that at all?
Not so much, because I talk to people, you know, and try to understand the culture while I'm here. Because the homestay I was managing, you know, I speak with the lady a lot about cultural things. Yeah, it's just a learning curve here, you know, but I can't say I've had, yeah, any cultural differences because I guess they, yeah, I mean, you know, this time of being in India, you know, for the last 10 months, I've been in one place because the whole of India, the whole of the world's not moving, you know, so everything is really so different. And just being here in Fort Coach and riding around the push bikes, my friend and I, Deb, so she's another Australian girl, everyone's just so friendly and they go, hi, you know, like because they just haven't seen white people for so long here.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like state to state is, you know, the cultural difference, you know, because Kerala is, I wouldn't say modern, but yeah, they speak a lot of English here because they speak, I can't remember what the local language is here, but, you know, they're so universal that they speak, you know, English and their own language and that, you know, so I haven't really come across much cultural stuff here yet, but, you know, I'm looking forward to learning stuff, you know, I'm not looking for a guru or, you know, as you're saying there, Carly, you know, like, this, you know, things happen and things change, well, all the best, you know, but I'm just here to experience it and have as much fun and enjoyment as possible because that's what my life is at the moment.
That's great.
Hmm.
I think it's definitely on my bucket list of places. I must admit there's a certain amount of, I have a little bit of apprehension about the, you know, having seen obviously on videos and, you know, on TV and YouTubes and so on, just the amount of population there, like crowds, constant crowds, and especially if you're being hassled by kids trying to beg from you and that sort of thing, I would find that quite confronting, I think. So,
yeah, see, that happens like the other day when we're at, you know, like when we go to a place called, it's a supermarket called Upcar, you know, because where, well, it's not that many Westerners around, but, you know, it's also where the more affluent people go, you know, because it's expensive kind of supermarket to your average Indians. And so that's where a lot of the street kids or where the kids or the beggars will hang out. But, you know, you just turn away from you, continue having your conversation. I guess I'm so a little bit more used to it, but then I've just started reading that book, City of Joy about Calcutta, which, you know, I haven't been to yet, but, you know, there's places you would go where you would see the extreme poverty, but, you know, once you start to understand it, you know, but that they say, you know, you just can't give money to give it to one person, the next minute you got 20 people just surrounding you. It was even like one day we went to this other shop and we just been and had lunch and we had some leftover food and we had underneath the seat of the bike. We went into the shop and the kids are hanging outside asking for money, you know. And then we lift the seat to put the groceries in, and then we realised the freaking kids had knocked off our food that was in the seat. They still were asking for money. And we're like, no, piss off. You've taken our food, you know, that's all you're getting. So, yeah, you just kind of, yeah. Depends, you know, okay, yeah, come to India and I'll catch up with you. But, yeah, you just got to stay away. If you don't like crowds, there's plenty of places you can not know where crowds are.
mm.
But I'm sure you've traveled the world, you've seen lots, you know, so India is no different. They're just all
I've been
chocolate
places.
people.
I mean, Egypt, we experienced that certainly where we were being followed by, yes, especially outside the monuments, you know, the sort of tourist attractions. They had, you know, children selling pictures, postcards, and things like that, you know, they're right in your face, and there's crowds of them, you know, and they're trying to sell you stuff, and oh, buy mine, don't buy his, buy mine, you know, that sort of thing, and then they come up with all the prices, and the price starts up here and it keeps dropping down. And we had one guy followed us all through the Valley of the Kings, trying to sell us these ornaments, you know, which is like, we made the mistake of kind of looking half interested, and that was it. That was enough for him to just follow us literally the whole way back to the coach until there was a barrier that we were allowed through, and he wasn't allowed to go past, and he's still shouting at us from there, and the price went from up here to right down. It was almost like he was going to pay us to take it away in the end, you know. There's just such a ridiculous drop in the price. It was, I think, well, why were you trying to ask us for that much back there? Well, because they're trying to just get as much as they can for their family. So you understand where they're coming from.
But haven't you been to Bali, Tony?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, Bali, you know, like
Yeah,
20 years ago, you know, they just were horrendously following you and harassing you. Now it's so much nicer. Well, it used to be so much nicer. Probably but they've stopped all that begging and, you know, forceful
Oh
stuff.
yeah, the Kuta used to be really, really bad for that, especially the street
Yeah.
sellers on the beach. You know, if you were on Kuta Beach, they would be constantly hassling you, trying to get you to buy trinkets and little tourist bits and pieces. And yeah, I did find that quite annoying. So the first time I went to Bali, I went, I'm never coming back here again because it annoyed me so much. But then I just, like, when we go now, or we haven't been obviously this last year because we haven't been able to with COVID, but normally when we go, and we go pretty much every year to Bali, there's certain places where we go where it's just not like that. You know, we go to Sanur and we go to Ahmed, where you don't get those crowds of kids. You still get the kids coming along the beach trying to sell you things, but not at that sort of not that many of them, and they're not that well, not as motivated, and they become more tolerant of, if you say no, they get that you actually mean no. So
Yeah.
you're alone, you know. Yeah, so I suppose, but I take your point, like with crowds in India, if you say you give something for one, you will get swamped, because that's a sign of, oh, this person's open to being generous to us, then you know, let's take advantage of that. But they're just trying to survive, I guess, aren't they? They're just trying to do the best.
Hey, they are, but they also say too, I learnt this from an Indian over in Oroville, you know, bargaining, you know, the prices. He said that, you know, it's half the fun. They all do it for the fun sort of thing. Like even yesterday, the other day I had to buy some shorts because my shorts didn't come back from the laundromat before I left. Anyway, this guy said, oh, you know, like 250 for a pair of, you know, just rayon shorts. I said, no way. I said 150. And he said, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I just walked off. And then he said, come back, and it's 150. And then so we went down further, and the guy had the same shorts. I said, how much are your shorts? He said, 150. I said to my friend, I said, oh, I should have offered you, you know, got a second pair for 100. But he said, yeah, they apparently have codes through the stalls, you know, like this is what she's paid. So, you know, like, yeah. So the price, like I say, can start there and go there. But, and then one time I went to buy something, and the guy just, you know, I wasn't really in the mood for buying, you know, but he sort of said 200 was the lowest, absolute lowest he could go. So I went to the next shop and said, this is what I want and this is what I'm paying. And then I got what I wanted for the price because I knew what the price was. Just learn those things.
Yeah.
Because it's the fun. Half of it's the fun.
Yeah, I've done that in Bali, where we've actually, Joe and I have actually bartered for something, and then we've ended up just giving them more than what we agreed to the price to be anyway, because it's almost like you feel guilty for taking it at such a cut price. You know, you think, oh, what the hell, it's only peanuts to us, but you know it's a lot of money to them. So I just look at it as making a charitable donation. If you pay more than you know that you should be paying, you just go, oh, well, if I'm paying $15 and it should really only be $12, you know, well, what's $3 to me? It's nothing, but it's a lot of money to them. So
a lot of money to them for sure.
Yeah, just go, oh, well, let it go. It doesn't, you know, I'm doing my good deed for the day. Yeah. Well, we're at that time. So anyone got any last things to say on that subject?
No, it's a very interesting subject. What was the original question again? That's what I wanted to know.
Well, it was when did you let your ego drive you rather than operating from your higher self?
Yeah, that was the part, the higher self. Yeah.
Comparing your ego with your higher self, and how did you recognize it? What did you learn? Troy, my stepson's in the background busting to say something, so he sent me a message here. Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not even exist. So yeah, the old acronym used to be false evidence appearing real. That's fear. So yes, if we're operating from fear, then usually it's our imagination. It hasn't actually happened, unless of course somebody is standing there with a knife or a gun or something. Then you are feeling genuine fear because it's right in your face, you know.
Yeah. Fear's just a trigger to like it's a trigger of your emotions to put you in to fight and flight so that you can make sure you're in a safe environment.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, if someone did have a gun, you definitely want fear to wake you up and go, something's not right here. I'm scared.
Yeah.
What's happening? Shit, there's a guy with a gun, get down.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
that's
like
because your adrenaline and all your physical responses enable you then to get out of that situation.
yeah, it's like it's making you discern the situation, so you either flight, move on,
Yeah.
or you go, no, I'm safe, and return back into homeostasis.
Yeah.
But I've got a question.
I've got a backseat driver here. Come on.
What that lady was saying that we've been listening to lately, she was saying, where there's love, fear can't exist.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we've been listening to some Gabrielle Bernstein. I don't know if you've come across her at all.
Yeah.
Maybe Google her, and she wrote the book, the best-selling book, The Universe Has Got Your Back.
Yeah,
She's got
noticed
tons
her.
and tons of videos on YouTube.
Yeah, and it's correct. That's why if we have any emotion at all come up, judgment, anything, and we take it back into our heart, that is correct, because the universal energy is love. And so if we're emanating love and we sit from in our entire body as love, you won't ever see fear, because you'll never have that energy. When they say you attract it, you attract the energy. Like, because I nearly got hit by the car and I went into a fear, I then attracted that man in his behavior because of my fear. But if I had stayed back into love, it would have diffused his. I'm not saying I control him. I'm just saying it would have diffused it, because the energy would be universal, pure love, and there's nothing else in that.
Yeah.
And if we all walked the earth as love, then it would be a very peaceful place.
Yes.
Very loving place. But
well, that's our job with Noble Goldman, is to awaken the world with one conversation at a time, with one person at a time, to hopefully inspire them to be a better version of themselves by showing that example of being a better version of ourselves as well. So we're all learning, we're all trying to improve, and that's what these 90-day challenges are about, and the 30-day quests and so on.
Yeah. So even in Mother Nature, like if there's a tiger coming to eat us, and we were just pure love, would it still eat us?
I wonder about that. It's interesting you say that, because I mean that does sound, on the face of it, it sounds a little bit ridiculous, but it's not. Because if you think about, I've been in a situation in the ocean where we've got sharks around us.
Yeah.
And okay, mostly they tend to be reef sharks, which historically there's only ever one. Yeah. Certainly in Western Australia, there's only one evidence of a black-tip reef shark biting someone, and that was in 1956 or something. Mm-hmm. But you know, when you're surrounded by sharks in a reef, down on a reef, as we were recently or have been in a number of places, Maldives, and recently we were at the Cocos Islands. But you still think that one looks pretty big over there and looks a little bit agitated. Just what if that one decides to have a go at me? You know, what am I going to do about it? But then I just go, just be calm. Just be, I'm here because I love being in this environment, and I love witnessing what I'm seeing here. And so you just try to relax and emanate just, peacefulness.
Yeah, unconditional.
And obviously doing that, you're lowering your heart rate and so on, which the shark is aware of your heart rate and things like that. So, that can be, I mean, if you've got a dog that's chasing you or something, if you just stand there and be calm and stand your ground, they're very often less likely to, they're sort of confronted by it. Well, what's this? Why is this person standing up to me? If you start running, they're going to chase you. And if you start trying to outrun a shark or a big animal or something, you're probably not going to win.
Yes.
Hey guys, I'm going to go because I want to do something before I jump on Lisa's call. So great conversation. So I'll see you on the next call, I'm sure.
Oh, you probably will. That's what I'm planning to do. So.
Okay, see you in a sec then. Bye.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Carly. Thanks. Have a great night.
Bye. Thanks, Tony.